We're going to look at how to run a chi-square test in SPSS and interpret the output. Now, I've got a database with some health statistics, and we're going to use gender and smoker or smoking status, so whether the person's a smoker or a non-smoker. Now, the reason I'm going to use these two is because we usually use a chi-square test when we have two nominal variables. Now, remember, nominal is data that has no meaningful rank or order. So smoker, non-smoker, male, female. They're definitely nominal variables. So let's go to Analyze, Descriptive Statistics, and Crosstabs. I'm going to reset, and I'm going to put in gender and smoker. It doesn't really matter which way around you do it. I've just chosen to put it this way. We're going to go to Cells, and I want to show you the expected count. I briefly mentioned this in the video on crosstabs. We're going to look at this in a bit more detail. I'm not going to use any percentages this time. And go ahead and click Continue. If we go to Statistics, we're going to tick the chi-squared option. Now, chi-squared is a test for independence, or you can think of it as a correlation coefficient, a test for an association. It just tells you if the association is significant, but doesn't tell you how strong it is. So we're going to use an effect size, either phi or Kramer's V, depending on the size of the table. So I'm going to go ahead and tick that box there. Go ahead and click Continue, and then click OK. Okay, let's look at our first table. This has our crosstabs, and we have our observed count, and we have our expected count. Now, the expected count is what we would expect to observe if there was no association. So, for example, if gender had no relationship with smoking status, so gender was independent from whether or not someone smoked, we would expect to observe around 39 males who are smokers and 47 or 48 males who are non-smokers. Similarly, we would expect to observe around 40 females who are smokers and around 49 females who were non-smokers. Now we can see our observed counts are different from these expected, and the chi-square test helps determine if those observed counts are different enough for the test to be significant or for the association to be significant. So let's look down here at our chi-squared test table. Now at the bottom, we need to read the first item, which tells us what percentage of the cells have expected count less than 5. This is important because it's an assumption of the chi-squared test. If this number here, this percentage, is greater than 20%, then this assumption has been violated and we need to take a different course of action. But for this example we're going to do now, this assumption has not been violated because 0 cells have an expected count less than 5. We can see the minimum is actually 39.05. In another example, I will show you what to do when that assumption is violated. Now, because this is okay, we're going to go up here and read the Pearson chi-squared value. It says 4.437. That's our chi-squared statistic. We have 1 degree of freedom, and this asymptotic significance is our p-value, or our significance value, and it's 0.035. Now, most of the time you're going to be testing at the 5% level of significance. You might call that value alpha, and this value here, which is equivalent to 3.5%, is less than the alpha value. So that means our result would be statistically significant. And we would accept our alternate hypothesis, which says that there is a significant association between gender and smoking status. In other words, gender or smoking status is not independent from gender. It is dependent on gender. Okay, if we have a quick look down here at our phi and Kramer's V, because it's a 2x2 table, we're going to look at phi. If it was bigger, I would look at Kramer's V. And this is like an effect size or correlation coefficient. It tells us the size of the effect. So there's some standard tables to look at. I would recommend that you look at the one that your lecturer has given you or the textbook that you're using, because they do differ. In the book I use, which is The Survival Guide by Julie Pallant, 0.15 is approximately a small to moderate effect. So that means gender has a small to moderate effect on smoking status. And again, this is significant.